costume scaling from 80% to 70%.
Yep, Agni just a little bit overperforming.
Yeah, just rooms.
We also think that some of the mage items is going to help him out in particular, so we wanted to do a preemptive nerf there just because he's doing really well. He's actually doing really well on both sides, aspect and non-aspect. He's actually
there's a few things I still have to do, Dragon. Don't let me forget to do them.
Well.
It's actually really interesting to see him flexible quite a lot in competitive
Yeah, they traded Brian Robinson to the Niners.
And then maybe draft him to the dual lane or the mid lane as well.
I think
next on the list is Athena. Not seen too much
bad.
Athena lately, and this may help her out. Her confound,
That doesn't help
the
her.
taunt for those
Athena's
at
so
home,
bad.
decrease the taunt duration protection scaling threshold.
When's the wheel come back?
from
When I take time out of my day to
protections
do it.
115, which means you should be able to get this up more often.
Yeah, this will mean that when you get enough item protections, your taunt will last longer, and the threshold's easier to get to. This is something that people pointed out. Like, we did a whole protection kind of squish.
Yeah.
And we didn't really address characters that had this type of scaling. After looking at it, really Athena and Hades, so you'll see Hades later on the list. Those two characters felt like they could use some adjustments. The other protection scaling things largely still felt fine. So we're just kind of focused on making sure that those thresholds are more like the appropriate difficulty to hit.
Sure. Next up is going to be Chak with the nerf that we mentioned. Thunderstrike increased the cooldown of this.
This is the first actually notable
They're going to be 10 seconds at
nerf.
all ranks.
Yep.
And Torrent decreased the base damage from 100 to 340. Is now going to be 80.
Too
to
much area
300.
control,
So some
too
base
much
change
damage.
there as well as
And just too many abilities.
Especially Thunderstrike, because that's also like limiting his potential mobility that he has access to. That's going to be a more substantial nerf than just kind of what's listed there. And then Torrent, just a very high base damaging ability along with everything else. Just taking the edge off that, especially if you're going to get multiple uses of that in a fight, that's going to end up lowering his top end kill potential on targets.
Next on the list is Cupid. This is more of a fix than a real buff or a change here, but share the love with fixing the issue with this ability was not providing mana heal.
I wish they kind of buffed
after
Cupid
picking up a
also.
heart, and was also not providing Cupid health when allies picked up a heart.
Yep.
So a little bit of a buff towards Cupid there to help him out, more of a fix than a buff. Hades, we just mentioned.
Does that then count as like for things that trigger off healing? Does that?
Yeah,
count as
I don't
a
even think
heal
that
when your
hits
ally
the
picks
spot
up
of
a
It
heal.
should count as ability healing.
Okay.
It should.
That
Second
should be
regrowth,
nerfed.
Regrowth. Striders. I was going to say pendant. I don't know why I would say pendant. Regrowth Striders. In your games, Hades, we mentioned the Athena buff. Well, this is similar in that.
Just gonna
the
feel like
Shroud of
shit, yeah.
Darkness,
Well, it's
we
gonna feel like
decrease the
shit
silence
for the
duration
auto
protection
attack
scaling
QEs,
threshold from 125
which doesn't
to
feel that OP, but
100.
like that
and I believe
low
they stack
cooldown
twice on
build.
those, don't they? So I
Yes.
believe it's an extra 0.4
it doesn't even
seconds
matter.
if you get over 200.
'Cause it scales down to 15
protections
again.
for Hades or 230 protections for Athena.
They need to hit Ricochet's
Next up,
cooldown,
Ho Yi.
unfortunately.
Ho Yi, recent released, seems that he's
It
going to
probably
be a
doesn't
bit of a
sound
nerf.
great,
Real
but they
good.
have to.
Yeah, he released, his base was very good.
Yeah.
His aspect was even better, doing like some of the highest numbers we've had on like an aspect release. We toned down the aspect, so that's now more reasonable.
I think that's what
But
has to be nerfed.
Hui overall is just
And I know it's going to
performing
feel
really well,
bad
so this
for
is the
auto
adjustments
attack
they can try
Hui,
and take that down a
but
notch.
that ability
Okay, so
Hui is
Suntouch,
just
first of all,
so
increased the
OP.
health threshold for Suntouch to trigger from 20% to 25%. We've also updated the tooltip to state that Suntouch cannot trigger again while Suntouch is active.
Yep, so that's just a clarification on its rules.
Then it comes to the actual changes themselves. Ricochet, we're going to see 95
This is
to
a pretty
295 is now doing
small
85
nerf to Hui.
285, so 10 scaling.
For
that's
how
like 10
good I
damage
think
off that.
he is.
And Dive Bomb, we've increased the cooldown. It was
Personally,
flat 15
maybe-
seconds. It's now going to scale
Maybe he's not
down,
doing
so
as
you
well
do
as
wanna
I
put
think
points in
he
this if you
is,
want
but
that
I feel like he's
mobility.
doing
I will
really
say, like,
well.
his mobility was really good with the change we made with
Yep.
the +1s, but I could make sense of why we're going to increase the cooldown a little bit more.
Yeah, the amount of safety he had in lane, also Ricochet, its damage, the base amplifies for every bounce, so this on higher bounces is going to take quite a bit of damage off the top end. We like the change that we made to Dive Bomb. It feels really fluid and really smooth.
It does
but
feel
mean
better.
that he's just way safer
It
than
does
he was
for
in
sure
Typhon.
feel
I
better.
feel like a cooldown adjustment's appropriate here.
Makes sense. And that's that with Ho Yi. Moving on, we're going to see a Carly
Another
change
Carly
now.
nerf.
I'm scared of leaking stuff early, but it's too late. Carly, we're going to see a nerf here as well. Decrease the per level health
Neith
gain.
shift?
97.5 to
no,
92.6. This will result in 98 less health.
Carly's the
at level
only
20.
character in the
Goodness,
game
we really hurt her.
Yes.
A whole 98
To have
health.
under
And
one of the
Dave,
base
The
attacks
number of
right
times
now.
she gets
So-
away with just a fraction of health.
I will mention, so Wheelish.
Yeah.
Wheelish
Buff?
overperforming, nerf.
Yeah.
Largely still fine. We shipped this balance change to her, and she is like the least performing character in the game now.
So we're not thinking the other changes did anything. It was the health change by
I-
98 health that changed.
Losing like
Yeah,
out on,
Hui's
like,
got
that
one
amount of
bat-
base health
one
is just-
flat.
It's essentially like every single fight you are just noticeably weaker.
Every
than that
hunter-
one
Sure.
by a
Well,
significant
okay.
chunk.
Every auto
these
attack
types of
character
changes
has
are
one
of those
attack
ones that,
speed,
like,
is
you
what I
don't
should
feel
say.
as
I don't know if
directly.
tanks
You'll
do.
just feel in the sense
I
that
feel
the
like they
character
should,
feels
but I
strong.
don't know for sure.
Yeah, and decreasing your base attack speed kind of has a similar
Yes,
effect there, right?
and that
I was
means
going to
that
say,
like
the
you
base attack
actually,
speed definitely a bit more impactful because of the aspect as well, I guess this hits.
yes, it does affect the aspect as well. Both sides of like aspect and non-aspect feel like they could use this nerf. And it's just it means
Yeah, I
that,
think
like,
they do, but I'm not
10%
sure.
attack speed, it's 10% of your base value. So 10% of 1 is 0.1. 10% of 0.97 is 0.97.
Good job.
Right, 0.097.
Yeah.
0.097.
There you go.
0.097, yep.
So this just means that all attack speed is effectively worse on her than it was before.
So Callie
It's
going to see a bit of a
3%
change there.
worth,
Will
so it's
affect her in
really
both. Next up
only-
is
And someone mentioned in chat, just
Yeah.
all gods have a base attack speed of 1. That's not true. Gods do have varying different ones, even in Smite 2. We've normalized it closer to 1.
Okay, so
but
it is-
there is still
that's what I was just about to
diversity in
say.
the amount of attack speed people have at level 1.
Okay. Well, next up is going to be Neith, and this is more of a shift here.
Okay,
Broken
this is actually
Weave, we've
a
increased
good
the strength
shift.
scaling from 15% to 20%.
No, this is a
Increased the
really
intelligence
good
scaling
shift.
from
This is
25%
actually a
to
W
20%.
shift.
Increase the attack speed
This is
scaling
perfect.
from 2% to 3% strength per stack. Decreased intelligence bonus from 10 to 8.
This is all I
Decreased
wanted was
intelligence
just
bonus
nerfing
per
in
level
Neith.
0.5 to 0.4.
Even if it means they buff
and
strength
intelligence
Neith,
at
I'm
level
fine with that.
20 per stack is now 20 to 16. This feels like a shift more towards strength and less away from the intelligence, which we've seen a lot of just lately.
Yeah, so intelligence Neith is doing
Just go
really, really
strength?
well.
No.
Strength focus
You're
Neith is
probably
not
still
performing
going
as well.
int.
And we think that broken weaves is something that Neith should play with on both sides. If you're focused on strength, you want to be popping them to get like the attack.
But to be
and stuff.
fair, strength
If you're-
items are
if
OP
you're
right
int, You
now.
want to be actually using that to just blow
Strength
people up.
items are OP
And so we
right
want
now,
them
so
both
maybe
to
you
be
do go
supportive, So we're
strength.
just making the strength side of that better, the inside of that weaker, and then also taking
Yep,
damage
Neith
off the
aspect
ravels.
buff
It's a
too,
big
correct.
AoE, it's really effective poke. At 90% scaling, it can really start off a team fight in a really strong way. So taking 10% off there also helps.
I guess taking into account we're about to buff some intelligence items anyway, which
Yes.
you'll see later on, so we may end up seeing her
Oh,
be just as fine
okay.
as before.
Well, I guess I
Maybe
take
need
back
more
what I
training,
just
but we'll see how
said.
that one goes. Next up is going to be Ul with more
Strength
of a
items
fix, I
were
believe.
better. They
Wield
maybe
axe.
still are.
Fix an
I
issue
don't know.
where he would get the previous rank strength and lifesteal while in axe stance if he ranked the ability in axe stance.
This was a fun
Interesting.
one to fix. It was just it was essentially a +1 error.
Just hidden away.
Just rank
Interesting.
strength
Okay.
and lifesteal while in axe
Next
stance.
up is going to be Vulcan. How's Vulcan been doing?
I
I'm
don't
guessing it's
know
a
what
shift,
that-
so you
I'll
think
be
it's
honest,
doing
I don't know what that
okay,
means.
but need some tweaks.
This will be, I think, overall it's a nerf.
Okay.
But it's a shift in the sense that there is one mod that just felt underwhelming, and so we're doing something pretty extreme to try and see if it can be more competitive with the other choices.
Okay, so the Master Craftsman mod, the Alternator mod. This is the one where you get the Thumper or you get the turret on alternate cooldowns.
So yeah, so alternator is
Wait.
one where they swap in
That's
place
the
on
one,
the
yeah.
ability versus going into your consumable slot.
This is decrease the Thumper's cooldown from 12 seconds to 6 seconds, and after you cast Thumper, you will need 6 seconds to cast Inferno Cannon again. So we've really just lowered the cooldown of the second ability there to allow
Yeah.
you for the Alternator to get them up a bit more often.
Yeah, if you want to have
That's
the
kinda
highest
crazy.
frequency of placing down turrets, this should be the way to go now. It's just going to be significantly faster than
You
the
might
consumable
actually
option.
go alternator
You do
now.
lose the flexibility, obviously, in having both available at once, but this should at least make it more competitive.
And then the Thermal mod, we've decreased the bonus backfire and magma
That is
bomb
a
scaling from
brutal
30%
nerf.
to 20%. So that was just overperforming a little
Yeah,
bit.
that was just really overperforming. It was doing a lot of
This
damage.
was like-
You kind of just always pick that one.
Yeah, you always
This
pick
was like
that one
30%
because it just
to
made your,
Vulcan
like, wombo
strength
combo
right
just
here.
that much more lethal.
And
So
now it's
taking
down
up
to
the scaling there should
20%,
bring
which
it more
is
in line with the other choices.
Big
And last but
nerf.
not least, Earthshaker, the ultimate. Short range
Maybe there'll
Earthshakers
be like
should
a
be less impactful. There's always here.
shrapnel
but max range
build
Earthshakers
now?
will remain hitting as hard as they currently do.
But I don't think
Interesting.
so.
I guess because the travel time's a little bit short upon, so it's kind of easy to confirm
they
that
didn't hit
damage.
the
Yeah, we
Earthshaker
made
cooldown.
changes. It just feels like when you just drop it in short range, it feels like you can confirm it on a team fight pretty easily that
Yeah.
way, and it does a metric ton of damage still.
He
This
wanted to
means
say
that now
fuck
that
ton.
style play is like, yeah, I'll still do damage. It's still gonna be good, but I don't want to just nerf it and make it the max range. Like you want the long ones where you see the like 2,000 number
it
pop
deserves
up.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that should
Metric
definitely
shit
still hit that
ton.
hard. So
Especially because most of the time those really long range ones, you've got to predict a lot, and also you're
Yeah.
doing it mainly over walls and things where you can't even see. So
yeah, so I want to make sure that was rewarding. But yeah, the short range one where you just drop it on top of yourself, they'll be less impactful.
I think that's a
And
good
that gives you
nerf.
Decrease the base damage from
That's a good nerf
320
to
720
Earthshaker.
is
It's
now
a
gonna
nerf
be
for sure, but it's a
285
good
to
nerf.
645. Decrease the intelligence scaling of this from 120% to
Overall, this is
110%.
this is actually a
However,
pretty big
increase
Vulcan
the
nerf.
max distance damage multiplier 1.5%.
Because you're nerfing his best
so
mod by
1.5
far,
times to 1.65
and you're nerfing his
times.
ultimate by like a
Okay.
decent amount.
That's it for your
And then you're
god
buffing his
balance
best
this
one.
week. Well, this week, next week, I guess, and for the patch coming out
Yeah,
on
but
Tuesday.
you're
We'll move
multiplying
on
off of a lower number.
Items next.
110% and
You
645.
mentioned items. It was mainly
So
going
it
to be
should
focused
only do
towards the intelligence
about the
items, so
same,
mages, but is there
maybe
anything else we
slightly
expect
more,
to see?
like
I
slightly
think
more.
that's like the big one that I think people are gonna like kind of take away from this patch. There's obviously a lot of other adjustments in here, but this one is probably the big, like looking at mage itemization that was underperforming and trying to bring them up closer to things like Spear of Desolation.
Buffing Signet again is
item balance on
crazy. I think that
Ancient
item is
Signet. We've seen
good.
a buff here, increased intelligence from 75 to 80, and increased mana from 200 to 250. I think we started to see a little bit more play of that, but it does feel like it was maybe a little bit under 2.
15 less damage. Okay,
this
so
also
it is
is probably
slightly
more
less.
impactful with the next bullet point we're about to discuss. But it was close to point balance. It was still a little bit underperforming, but we think that this item will actually work really well with Book of Thoth, which is getting a buff.
That buff is going to be increased the mana conversion before evolution from 4% to 5%, but also increase the mana conversion
The
after
crazy thing
evolution
is
from 6% to
Signet doesn't build
7%.
well with
So
Book.
overall, that's just going to be flat.
Because
base
Signet,
damage
you want
increases
low cooldowns
after
for
you build this, and
spamming.
it's going to get better as the game
And
goes
for
up.
Book of
Yeah, but
Thoth,
it's
you
gonna
want
work
just
better with your mana
high
items like Ancient Signet
mana,
now being
high
buffed, or, like,
intelligence to
Calm
just do as
Alpha
much
Con,
damage
those
as
types of items.
possible.
Yeah. Divine Ruin, also going to be
Like, they
seeing a
just don't
buff here.
pair very
now
well together.
only triggers on god damage, increase the
Oh, so this
intelligence
is
scaling
where-
from 10% to 20%.
This is a huge
and decrease
buff.
the cooldown of the
Huge
activation of
buff
this from
to
20
Divine
seconds
Rune.
to 15 seconds.
Yep, we saw the feedback that it didn't feel as impactful as it could after the removal of the anti-heal.
Combining
And we
this
said,
with
we think
Signet-
this passive has room to actually be really, really useful. And really
It is
good,
actually an
making
insane
it
amount of
god
damage.
only,
It's like-
increasing the scaling, making it happen more
It's like
frequently.
280
Those are all things
flat
that make it
plus
so that
20%
it
of your
procs when you want
damage
it to in the
on a
ways that you want
15-second
it to.
cooldown.
So Mencha just said Ruin is buildable now already, just with that one note.
Hell yeah.
Gem of Focus, increase the cooldown rate from 10 to 20.
Gem of
So it's
Focus is
20 cooldown
viable.
rating on this now.
Yep,
It's
20
actually
rate.
viable.
Makes it a little bit more viable, I guess, because there's not that much 20 cooldown rate.
Yeah, there's not many items that give you that much cooldown rate.
It
It's
is
a fairly cheap
actually
option, and it also just kind of works well.
an
with,
item
like,
you
its
can
passive.
purchase now.
And then it's paired with Tekokage in this list because those are the two items that are like we're trying to keep them like one strength, one's in focus, but we also try and keep like their cost difference and what they focus on. So Tekokage is going the other side, which is we're just going to make the strength higher.
Jungle's can use a smite 2 item, maybe?
Tekokage increased
No.
strength from 50
I think
to
Tekko's
60.
still bad.
Next up, a big community go on.
And I was going to say, I think it's also kind of helps separate Gem Focus a little more from
Tekko's bad still.
like why am I blanking out on it? The orb, Doom Orb, right? They
Yeah.
were kind of
There's so
similar.
many
where
items you
we,
compare
we're
it
still
to, and
trying
it's
to
just
push those
all
more-
the strength
more
items are
separate.
better. The reason that Gem
Tekokage,
of
we said,
Focus
was
feels good
increased,
now
but
is
the next one
because
is
not a ton of
regrowth
great int
strides. And I
items.
think a lot of people complain. Movement speed, pawn.
Yeah,
we gave it
Pendulum,
movement speed, and everyone
Oathsworn,
lost their minds.
Hydra.
Yeah, it's it was pretty good. See, here's just my like, little soapbox.
Do it.
We regrowth striders. It always had the word regrowth in its text, and that always didn't feel like it actually really cared about regrowth as a thing in Smite 1. So that's why we added like that heal over time, but also now it has this movement speed. Like it's an item that like the actual name of the item has driven a lot of its design. But yeah, having this much movement speed is just really good. And so decaying down to 0% instead of 10%, starting at a lower amount just means that the amount of vroom vroom you go is less.
Yeah, but so only
That
a
is a
second or
pretty
two,
decent
if
nerf to
that, for the
regrowth
most part, you don't see
striders,
the effect of
but
that. I guess it is one of those items that does have a
is still
double
just
passive,
good.
which not many do.
Yes.
So I think it stands out a little bit more. But movement speed is always king, as people say. Next up is going to be Runeforged Hammer. This is getting quite a buff by the looks of it. Increased strength from 40 to 45.
wow.
Increased item protection scaling from 50 to 65%.
I wish they cut the
Also
cost instead of increasing the
cooldown to
strength.
30 seconds from 40. And
It just feels
increased
a
cooldown
little
reduction
too
on
expensive.
applying hard crowd control from 3 seconds to 6 seconds.
Yep. So by looking at some underperforming items on the mage side, this one also stood
30
out 'cause
CD
we
is
were
so
looking
crazy,
at
and it
how
reduces by
this
6
compared to
seconds
other
if
kind
you
of
hard
solo
crowd
lane
control.
bruiser style items.
So, like,
Both that it
Thor-
give you
if
some love,
Thor
just
can
making
use
it
this-
more impactful when you actually build the item protection scaling.
I'm gonna check
making
it.
happen more
I'll check it
frequently,
after.
maybe
If
more
Thor can
instant
build this
getting
with this
it.
aspect,
Yeah, interesting.
he
to
might
see
be
that
OP.
Picked up a few more times. Next up is going to be Soul Gem. So wall of text here, Pon. You want to go over it with me?
Yeah, very briefly.
Yeah.
Soul Gem in Smite 1 considered all hits, not just enemy hits. So if you Giannis thresholded and your allies walked over it or you walked over it, that counted as a hit for the stack of Soul Gem. We're moving back to that because we think that, one, it gives it a better application for characters. Like, it gives them a more, like, targeted way of actually making it useful for them.
Yeah.
So, like, your
68
supports
int.
that have a whole bunch of team utility can now buy this more.
Yeah, it
effectively
actually has
as
its
a
niche
pure
back.
damage dealer. And with that change, we're also doing a whole bunch of stat shifting around to it just to make sense. The only other part of this is we had kept the healing on it pretty strong from the healing pass because we felt that this item was underperforming. So like if we don't move the healing that much, that might just bring it into balance.
Okay.
But now that we think it has a much stronger identity, it's going to be doing more damage more consistently. Its intelligence is higher. We also took down the healing kind of more akin to what the healing pass would have normally brought it down to.
Okay, so with that, you're going to see the adjusted this. The stack proc happens once per ability. Proc damage happens once per target per ability. Increase the intelligence from 40 to 60. Increase the base heal from 5
I think there's actually
to
a pretty
20,
big buff to
but
Soul Gem.
Decrease the heal per level.
Because the
from 10
heal
to
is
6. Level
pretty
1 is 50
good.
to 26, and level 20 is 205 to 140 as the example there. So expect to
The
see
heal
a
is
little bit more
pretty
burst coming
good.
from this item if
Yes.
people pick this
But
up.
it doesn't feel like your
the
int
sustain
just
from this item
tanks
is
when you buy
definitely
this
going
one.
Yeah, and some characters are just going to love this item a lot more. Like Giannis,
Yep.
he was the example case that brought really to like our center of attention on like the ally hit rule, where like people were used to playing Soul Gem on Giannis to specifically.
It was so
as you're
bad
traveling
on
through the portals,
Giannis.
As you're crossing over threshold, you'd enter. A fight
It
pretty
was
much with
so
your own
bad
staff,
on
and
Giannis.
We weren't doing that anymore. It just didn't feel like useful on Giannis. So that moves it more towards it. That should be. That's kind of his buff this patch too.
This
He
is
doesn't have
pretty
another
big
buff.
buff to
Giannis
Janus.
Yeah, he's in that weird spot of like he's underperforming and probably could use a buff, but that's also the state that Giannis is always in, where people feel like he's fair.
Sure.
Because
Yeah,
he has
it
so
is
much mobility,
Janus's
so much
it-
team control. So
like Chronos
we're holding
Pendant
off on more Giannis
is
buffs,
Chronos'
but this
item.
Itemization pass should
Book of
help him
Thoth
out
is Thoth's
in that.
item. Soul Gem is Janus's item.
Next up on the list is going to be Daybreak Gavel. This is another wall of text here. Daybreak Gavel, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, so now, especially because Soul Gem considers ally healing or ally hits, and Daybreak was working on healing, which is similar to like team things that you're doing. It was very similar. You build stacks and your next ability does 40% scaling. They were already close in functionality, but now they were just too
Ooh.
close. It felt like they just occupied the same space. Daybreak Gavel wasn't seeing super success. It wasn't super interesting to people, so we've changed it to be a bit more interesting, hopefully.
This
and
item is
and now,
broken.
as you get those stacks, your next non-healing will consume all of them, giving you just
This
a
item
fine
is
amount of shield for a
actually
very long period
OP.
of time. And this is interesting and different in how it used to work, because you can now do things like if you go on heal yourself one, and then you get the cooldown reduced and you heal yourself again, it will refresh and add to the stacks.
Okay.
So you can immediately burst it to 4 if you want to, or you can try and maintain it with low cooldown healing abilities.
Okay, so just to recap there, remove the on ability use consume all stacks. This ability is 10% strength and intelligence scaling per level, max 40%. It's now on new healing ability. Use consume all the stacks, gaining 13 strength or 16 intelligence based on highest item stat for 8 seconds per stack, max of 4. So you will
Never
see that
mind.
consistency
It's not
a little bit
broken.
more
I think it's
damage
okay.
available to you. Next on the list
I
is
was
Staff
reading
of
on
Mirrodin.
it as you spammed abilities
Mirrodin?
that didn't heal you, you just get stacking strength.
Decrease the
roller it
cooldown
is.
120 to 80 seconds. I think that was kind of needed with how often it felt like a very long time, 2 minutes.
Nice buff
Yeah,
from
it was a
Mirrodin.
long cooldown. It has really high potential to break the game, and because you're cheating 2 cooldowns.
Yep.
But we've seen it at 120 seconds. We've seen it at the power it's at. It's probably fine to let this be stronger.
No, Death
and
is
let's
probably
focus-
just gonna get a
instead of
couple
just
int.
giving it int to make
10
it, like,
int, I would
more,
assume. Maybe
easy to
15.
build and
Maybe if
let's
they
just
feel
let
like
you
the
use
item is
these
bad,
effectively.
20.
Give that a little bit more often. And then next up is Totem of Death, increasing
Yeah,
intelligence
expected.
from 45
You can't really
to
touch
60.
anything else.
Yeah, this should be something that you can pick up on your team to like essentially replace like an executioner's, but it just felt like it was too difficult to do. So an executioner was just going to be a better version of this. So this should be able to fit in characters that want to use it more, like your Merlins, your Anubises, stuff like that.
Next up, Typhon's Heart. Quite a big
Did you just
buff
say it's
change
a
here.
worse version of
Typhon's Spawn will now only consider
name is
targets
Mike.
in combat. What's his name?
Mike.
I did
Mike Typhon?
I did have
Mike
in the
Typhon.
text here Mike Typhon.
That's off.
But I did change it to Typhon.
You could have left it. But Typhon Spawn, Mike Typhon, will now only consider targets in combat to attack. Will prioritize God
This is nice.
over any other
This is
target.
nice. This leash
Typhon
range is
Spawn
really
will
good.
now retreat to their owner if they are separated by more than 13.2 meters. Increase the damage scaling from him from 20 to 30% intelligence. Increase Typhon's spawn health from 50 to 55 per level. Increase the intelligence amount from 40 to 50. So overall, he's going to be bigger and he's going to run around more rampant looking for the actual fights that are going on.
Yeah, so this is a big AI pass for him. We kind of let him have new WoW minion AI, which largely just tries to run for. It holds the W key.
Yeah.
And
my
that makes
game.
it just really hard to actually, one, you don't even see it often, and it'll get distracted by a lot of things like a random jungle camp on the way. So one, if the jungle camp's not in combat, it's not going to try and focus it. If you choose to engage the jungle camp, then it'll try and fight it. And if it just can't, if you're too far away from it, it'll actually retreat back to you and stay with you. So no more.
This might
like,
be
one thing that would
actually
happen
good
pretty
now.
frequently was let's say you won a team fight and you wanted to use it to push.
Yeah.
It actually moved so fast at that point that it just literally ran to the tower
Just
and
left
died
without
before
you.
you could even get there.
Yeah.
This
Now we're
might
actually
be
trying to stay
really
behind.
good now.
Interesting. So it's kind of on a leash almost,
Yes.
just to keep you.
Because imagine you're fighting a 1v1
why I
in
say this
lane.
will be better. I think the
You just have
amount
another
of, like, little bit of
minion
weirdness in how it
ganking.
moves. You'll understand why this is not a thing saying that we're gonna do Scotty and Calder soon. This is not us doing the Calder tech.
Prefacing already. Yep.
But it does mean that like Typhon's heart will just feel better overall.
Umbral Link is next on the list, and that's just going to get a cost adjustment here. 200 gold reduction,
might
2,700
help.
to 2,500.
That
That's
might
quite
help.
expensive.
Yeah, it was really expensive.
Ooh, that
We did
Triton's
actually
conch
see some
buff is
success in our
nice.
data, but we just think it needs to be more approachable, more buildable for people to try it.
I think
and
it's actually better than people give it credit for in the right circumstance.
Yeah,
but
it really is. You're committing to that kind of like bruisery, high lifesteal style build, and you're focused on getting your team.
Yeah, that's the
kinda
problem.
healthier.
You team play. That's the issue. It's like it's personal play. That's why I've
next thing you're gonna ask me to buy wards. Gosh.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Titan's Conch is the next thing on here, which is also getting above 20 to 25 and decrease the cost from 2,800 to 2,700 and increase the base strength aura from 7 to 10.
Yeah, and this is focused on the strength side. So this is a kind of another aura item that can help your team out. It's another bruiser item that just brings that utility to your team. And we want to increase the strength side of it so that when you are actually like building this as a tank, you can notice it more in your basic attacks. You can notice it more in like how you're impacting a fight because you're going to be mostly helping others. And again, it's just an item that is pretty good.
I'm
and
an
just a little
Umbral
bit of
Link
extra
enjoyer
love here will
before it
actually
was
help
cheap.
Fit into more builds.
It was fine.
And that's all I have on this update for the time
was
being of
fine.
exactly what's going on.